Hi, I'm Stuart and I'm here to give you an insight into the A-Level Geography course at HNC. One of the topics we have on the Geography course is a topic all about hazards. And on hazards, we categorise the events into geological hazards or tectonic hazards. These include things like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. Then we have Earth surface hazards, things like floods, avalanches, landslides. And we have atmospheric hazards, and atmospheric hazards includes a whole range of hazards from tornadoes to blizzards, heat waves. But I'm here to talk to you today about tropical storms. Specifically, the aims of this short lesson are to look at why tropical storms create hazards for people, how predictable they are, and how people respond to that hazard risk, and how people can reduce the effects of tropical storms. So first up, I'll just talk a bit about natural events and hazards, because not all natural events actually are hazardous. If you have a natural event occurring a long way from where people are, then there's no hazard. So for example, in this picture here, this volcano erupts fairly regularly. It produces large eruptions of lava and ash, but it almost never produces any kind of hazard for anyone at all. And the reason for that is that this hazard, this volcanic eruption, takes place in Antarctica. And Antarctica, where Elbrus is thousands of miles from the nearest large town or city, so no hazard at all. This, however, is a different matter. This is New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, when a major city was hit by a tropical storm. So clearly, natural event, large city, and a hazard. So if you have a natural event overlapping with lots of people, you have a hazard, and if that hazard becomes so big or people respond poorly, then you can have a potential disaster. So back to our tropical storms. Here we have a picture of Hurricane Floyd off the coast of America. We're going to think about prediction, we're going to think about what the hazards are, we're going to think about how people respond to them. First up, if you're really keen on tropical storms and you want to study them in great detail, you're best off being a meteorologist or a weather forecaster. They are people who are often quite good at physics and they study tropical storms in detail. What geographers study more is how storms affect people. So we're very good at looking at the impacts of storm events, the hazards, how people respond. We're not always so good at the physics. So why tropical storms? Why are they so hazardous? Well, first up, tropical storms create three main effects, the first of which is wind. So here we have wind damage in a tropical storm in the Caribbean. The record wind speed for a hurricane was Hurricane Patricia in Mexico in 2015, where winds exceeded 215 miles per hour. Wind damage can be severe on buildings, any kind of structures like power lines. Second major hazard from a tropical storm is rainfall. And rainfall can be very intense and can last a long period of time. Cyclone Hyacinth in the Pacific in 1980 dropped over 6,000 millimetres of rain in 15 days. To give you an idea, that's 6 metres of rain in just over 2 weeks. And for context, in West Yorkshire here, we get somewhere between 800 and 1,000 millimetres of rain in a year. So that's 6 years worth of rainfall in just over 2 weeks. The third major event we can have from tropical storms is a storm surge. A storm surge is when the sea bulges upwards and pushes on shore and creates a much, much higher tide than normal. The record for one of these is over 13 metres in Australia. Normally they get to about 2 to 5 metres above sea level with a bad hurricane. Which of these three phenomena do you think might be the most hazardous? Well, it might surprise you looking at what the impacts are for tropical storms. 90% of all damage and deaths are actually caused by storm surges. Only 9% are caused by rainfall. That's normally when the rainfall triggers landslides. And just 1%, although the media feature winds a lot, just 1% of deaths and damage are caused by high winds in tropical storms. So these are the key hazards. Let's think about prediction. How predictable are storms? Well, unlike earthquakes, they're actually fairly predictable. Why is that? Well, One answer is we know when in the year they will occur. So Atlantic hurricanes typically take place between around mid-July and the end of October. And that gives us a good idea about when to warn people about the tropical storm risk. We also know where they're going to happen. They occur in distinct areas of the world, largely in the tropics, and we know about particular areas like the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico that are at particular risk. We also know the atmosphere and ocean conditions that are needed for tropical storms to form. So we need ocean water of at least 27 degrees Celsius, and we need that to quite a depth. That's over 50 meters, which is actually quite rare. So when those conditions happen, we can get a tropical storm. And of course we can track their movement. So 60, 70 years ago, it was aeroplanes, it was ships, it was people on the ground. And nowadays we can use satellites to track these storms. Almost minute by minute, almost kilometre by kilometre, we can look at their progress. So in theory, these storms shouldn't be that dangerous because we can predict them reasonably accurately. However, there is a but. This is Hurricane Floyd 1999. And in Hurricane Floyd, it started southeast of the Bahamas, it moved northwest and then west to threaten Florida, but then it stopped. And then it turned northwards, and then it turned northeastwards, and it headed back out into the Atlantic Ocean. It didn't actually make landfall anywhere in America. Fast forward 6 years, and this is Hurricane Katrina, which started in more or less the same way. It formed southeast of the Bahamas, it moved northwest, then west towards Florida. But then it did something very different. It then continued west. It got a lot stronger. It then turned northwards and made a direct hit on New Orleans. So quite hard to predict. It's also quite hard to predict the exact impact of the storms. In many tropical storms, the most severe effects are quite localized, like rainfall or the actual precise wind speed. So how would you respond to the threat of 2 days of torrential rain, wind speeds of 160 miles per hour, and the sea level rising by up to 5 meters? Well, it might depend on a lot of factors. These factors can include things like how much money you've got. And many Americans have survival kits, they can board their houses up, they can even build houses on stilts to protect themselves against tropical storms. It might depend on your personality. Are you a risk taker or are you conservative? But there's lots of other factors here that might play a part. Do you have experience of the natural hazard? Is it happened to you 5 years ago or even last year? It might make you behave differently. Have you been educated at school or in the media about what to do in the event of a tropical storm? How old are you? Do you have children? Do you have elderly relatives? Might affect your decision about what to do in the event of a tropical storm as well. And what job you've got. Are you a teacher, for example, and you might be happy to evacuate? Are you a small business person and you want to stay to protect your livelihood? Maybe you're a firefighter and you're tasked with staying to protect other people. Do you have insurance? Those with insurance often tend to flee. Those don't tend to behave differently. But most people, in most situations, when faced with these conditions, not surprisingly, decide to evacuate. Evacuation is the norm, but it also then gives us geographers to think about what we would do and how we would manage an evacuation. So commonly in America, you see multiple miles of traffic jams in evacuations. So geographers can help think about the best evacuation routes, when to declare an evacuation and so on. And of course, being geographers, you will also know that some people have much less choice about what to do in the event of a natural hazard. And as geographers, our role is also to think about other countries in the world. This is Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is not like the USA. So I hope you've learned something a little bit about geography there. Thank you very much indeed for watching.